Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Interchange. I'm Dan Jones. Thank you so very much for joining us. We're going to talk about national politics today, not just because it's important, but because we have two guys with us today who were both at the conventions. All right, we're also going to talk about a sad case involving the son of a Milwaukee County judge who's been charged with the murder of a woman in River West. And we will talk about what kind of season lies ahead for the Green Bay Packers. All right, let me introduce everybody. We have Kevin Fischer, former broadcast journalist, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio. You know, Joel McNally, longtime newspaper columnist, just back from the Democratic convention. And Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert, now back from the Republican convention. Rick Horowitz will be along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about, the conventions. They're over now, so we march towards Election Day, which is only about 8 weeks away. Not that far away at all. You do have to wonder if the conventions really changed minds of any of the voters or whether those minds were made up many months ago. So you were there. Granted, it's the faithful. They're going to love it. Yeah. How do you think the impression was made on people who may be undecided?
Well, I think, as I said, after the Republican convention, yeah, I agree that the conventions are attended by the people who are already enthusiastic for the candidates. I don't even know why independents watch for sure. I think that the citizens of this country are probably more likely to watch their president than the challenger. But if they're really upset with the president, they would probably tune in the challenger. I got to say, just looking at both conventions, obviously being inside the Democratic convention gave me, the idea. This is how could you create any more enthusiasm? I mean, it was. I really thought, and I'm sincere about this, I thought at the Republican convention there were speakers that avoided mentioning their own candidate, Mitt Romney. Hardly mentioned him, hardly brought him up. This was a convention about Barack Obama, about the president, and about, yes, of course, he hasn't been able to clean up everything in 4 years, but things are moving in a positive direction. Saving the automobile industry, creating jobs every month instead of losing jobs every month, as happened when he took over, and the killing of Osama bin Laden, and it was. But also, obviously, the real difference between the two conventions, this was an extremely diverse convention. Some of the people who are demonized on the other side are celebrated at the Democratic convention. The diversity, and there was even an undocumented immigrant who spoke to the convention. And, obviously the Republicans, these people are illegals, and we need to ship them all back, to another country. These are people who were brought here as babies and grew up in America, loving America, pledging allegiance to America. And the Democrats love being to rally. They call them dreamers. They don't call them illegals. They call them people who just want to fulfill the American dream, living in this country all their lives. And, they're represented with terrific. I got to say, the other thing, we all know Barack Obama gives great speeches, but he seems to bring out the best possible speeches out of everybody who's ever run for president who's up there speaking for him, whether it's Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton's speech for Barack Obama was better than he ever gave during his presidency. John Kerry gave one of the best speeches, and one of the ones that called out, remember when the Republicans trashed, John Kerry, an American war hero, trashed his military record in order to beat him for president? He was up there saying, boy, the Republican convention, the guy they nominated for president, not only didn't he mention the war in Afghanistan, he didn't mention the veterans. He didn't mention the people fighting abroad for this country at this moment in time, and that's an insult to real war heroes like John Kerry.
Now, I would guess, though, that if Joel was at your convention, he wouldn't have liked it.
No, I want to ask you one thing, though, and I really believe this. I know you're enthusiastic for your party and your candidate, but it seemed to me the things that the Democrats were enthusiastic about were very positive things. The things the Republicans were enthusiastic about were shots at Barack Obama and negative things. So it seems to me the impression to the public is one convention was extremely negative and the other convention was extremely positive.
No, I think the hope that the Republicans were offering, at least the Republican ticket, is that these things that are problems or challenges for us as a country can be solved, but they're not going to be solved by the Democratic Party ticket.
But
what was
solved by Republican policies that didn't work under Bush?
Absolutely. The problems that we face today are certainly better solved by a Romney-Ryan ticket versus an Obama-Biden ticket. We've had 4 years of high unemployment, 93 million Americans out of work who can work currently. Under this president, that number had grown by at least 15%. We've got people who no longer look for work, which shows that they are desperate. They are the ones who are the hopeless. We've got people that are looking for having their entitlement program salvaged. And this president I'll tell you, that plan is better than the plan that the president has put forth.
Nonsense.
Yes, it is. And the unfortunate part about it is that most of the speeches, while they were inspiring to Democrats, were empty speeches. The president accused the Republicans of delivering speeches that were short on policy tactics. Well, unfortunately, what the Dems got was a lot of rhetoric and no plan, no real plan. What did the president say that left people who were watching, especially those who were independents, with the feeling that the next 4 years will be years where those problems that have been exacerbated under his watch will be solved under his watch?
You want me to answer that?
Well, I asked it as rhetorically as the president asked it, and he offered no answers. So I'm expecting more of the same. I think there were a lot of straw men that were set up, things that Republicans have never said that we were accused of saying, things that Republicans have never done that we were accused of doing. And if that's the kind of campaign that's going to be run, then that's a disservice to the American people. I do believe that an awful lot of money is going to be spent to pitch a candidate that really has demonstrated he's not capable, no matter how likable he is, of running the country. And I just don't think President Obama is capable of running the country.
So, Kevin, what happens in the next 8 weeks?
Well, now we get into the nuts and bolts of the campaign. These conventions are infomercials. They're big productions that, quite frankly and sadly, are not watched by the number of people that probably should. They're losing their luster, and that's unfortunate. I thought that President Obama, and a friend of mine that just this week told me, well, you know, Kevin, he's a great orator, and I did not disagree. However, it wasn't the best speech Obama ever gave. It wasn't even the best speech of the convention. You look at the persona that the president exhibited in 2008. He was inspirational. He was unifying. He was hopeful. That was not the president we saw Thursday night. He seemed bitter. He seemed angry. When you're the president at your convention, you strongly, aggressively assert that you deserve re-election. You almost demand it. Here, he was begging for a second chance. He was pleading for a second chance. Nothing he could have said Thursday night can erase his record or undo some of the damage he's done to his country. That's a record that I think will be exploited. And I'm sorry, from a political strategic standpoint, killing bin Laden and bailing out the auto industry that turned out to be a colossal waste of billions of dollars.
Good God, saving jobs is a waste of money.
And what do we have for it? A bigger and bloated deficit. We have more people out of work that you alluded to. The latest jobs report shows that fewer people are looking for work.
Which the president had the info on and didn't mention
didn't talk about it. And he didn't address because he can't. He doesn't have a plan. Now, inside the convention halls, sure, there's nirvana, but the people watching at home in the seats who've been out without jobs for months and months and months, I don't think what the president said resonated.
But 29 months of job growth compared to months of job loss
And he's still 261,000 jobs
he hasn't
short.
cleaned up the entire mess.
He doesn't deserve another 4 years to make it any worse.
In charge who created
Blaming
the mess.
Bush is also a loser strategy. Right. It's about time he accepts.
These are enormous problems.
It's about time he accepts
time.
responsibility for being the man.
The Republicans created an enormous, the second worst economic crisis in history.
I'm somewhat hesitant to talk about the next topic because I'm not really sure what we can say about it. But the 32-year-old son of Milwaukee Judge Tom Donegan has been arrested and charged with the brutal and random murder of a woman in River West last weekend. The judge, also a longtime and respected former alderman and a Milwaukee Common Council president, said his son had serious mental health issues and had not been taking his medications. Doesn't make it any less of a crime, but it certainly shows how any family can be affected by horrible tragedy.
I know Judge Donegan. I think he's an upstanding judge, human, cares for this community, and clearly he cares for his son. And he cares for the family of the woman who lost her life. This points out, though, to some of the shortcomings of our mental health system in this community and its ability to provide support to those people who need the support and to provide the tracking services so that people who don't take their medications regularly, people who don't have the regular kind of family members or friends that can check in on them regularly to make sure that they're on some steady path of responsibility. I think it only highlights that aspect of it. I think now that lawyers have become involved, who knows what the defense is going to be for the young man. Clearly, they don't want him to be penalized for a crime that maybe without his sickness he would have committed. I'm not making excuses for him. I just think it's a sad situation that only highlights shortcomings of our mental health system in this community.
And so many people in this community know Judge Donegan, and I think it's just breaking their hearts. Not only that this who seems like a wonderful woman lost her life, but that a son who came from an apparently a very good background found himself in this position.
Well, yeah, anyone who is familiar with mental health associations and organizations, people who are reaching out to help, know that this is one of the real cross-economic and cross-racial and cross-everything else in this community kind of problems. And another aspect that hasn't been, and I, like Gerard, of course, I know Judge Donegan and have for a long time, and even know the family. And the aspect of it that mental health people worry the most about is that when something like this makes the news, and it makes the news because of, or even the cases of the horrible mass shootings we've had involving mentally ill people, when they make the news, they make everyone wary of anyone with mental illness, to put them in this dangerous, demonized category, a threat to the community. I think it should, push us to do something else, which is that both for public safety, although it's an infinitesimal number of people with mental illness that actually create violent acts, and we don't know any of the facts around this case, but it should tell us that, for the community safety and for the safety of our families and to prevent tragedies like this from happening to any family, whether it's Judge Donegan's family or this victim's family. We need to provide. We've done away with some of the institutions and some of the horrible ways that we used to treat the mentally ill, but we haven't replaced it with real services that provide real care for these people, that can monitor and get them hooked up with medications, and our whole healthcare system just recently was forced into covering some of these illnesses through regulations. They would prefer not to have to cover anything expensive and dangerous and tragic. But it's actually a tragedy for any family that has a mentally ill person in their family. There's heartache probably their entire lives over it, and it doesn't even have to take an incident like this. this is a service that is desperately needed, and we need to talk about extending it, not just demonizing the victims of it.
Kevin, you have to admit, when you were reading this story, not only did you think, wow, any one of us can be a victim at any time to a horrible crime, but when you read this story, you also thought, wow, this could happen to my family at any time as well, not just being the victim, but being the suspect.
And I felt badly for the judge who, we all know, I've known him and have interviewed him many times during my career. And
he was a good children's court judge.
Yeah.
He cares about children.
He's been a tremendous public servant in our area. And I also feel badly for the victim and the victim's family, because this was just an innocent woman who was trying to actually better her life and has been working very hard to do so. And I get the only reason we are talking about it is because of Judge Donegan. I suspect that, and this step has already been taken, that you're bringing in an outsider to preside over this, and that's the right thing to do, so that you dispel any kind of appearance of bias. I suspect, you talked about the defense for the young man, I suspect that the defense will be that there was mental disease or defect. We don't know all the facts in the case, but it appears that I don't think that defense will work, because he did know what he was doing, and legally that's not mental disease or defect. It's a shame that you have two decent families that are going to be scarred for the rest of their lives because of this unfortunate tragedy.
All right, we're going to move on now. All right, so the Green Bay Packers start their season Sunday. They open the season with a game against the 49ers in Green Bay, and then just a few days later, they stay in Green Bay but have another game against the Chicago Bears. So this is an important few days coming up. You're a Bears fan, so we won't get to you yet.
Wait a minute. Now, how did I get labeled a Bears fan all of a
You
sudden?
are a Bears
You have
fan.
Chicago in your blood. You have Chicago in your blood. So we'll get to you later.
I've been tainted by my history.
Is this a Super Bowl caliber team, the Packers?
Could be, but I don't think they're as good a team as they were last year. That is going to be tough to top. In order to top last year, you have to go 16-0. That's darn near impossible in a league with so many good teams and with parity. And a tough schedule. You could be 0-2 by the next time we're sitting here talking. Okay, that defense for San Francisco may be one of the best. It is one of the best in football. Then you have very little time to turn around and play your biggest arch rival. And you should have a tough schedule. If you were 15-1 the previous year, you should play a very difficult schedule the next year. They have tough teams down the road. Houston's on their schedule, and some others. They're going to have to protect that quarterback who likes to run around, and if he goes down, then you have nobody to back him up. You're dead. You're done. That offensive line, the defensive line, okay. Linebackers, very good, but the defensive secondary was burned a lot last year. They're going to have to find a way defensively to put pressure on the other team's quarterback, or they're going to get lit up, and then they're going to have to score 30, 35, 38 points a game, and that's tough, even with all the weapons the Packers have.
They have to win these two games, though, don't they?
Well, I think they have to win them all until they lose one. But I basically always take the position, and particularly under Aaron Rodgers, this quarterback, this is a great team. I mean, it's a great team no matter which games they win, and it's a great team that could win them all and win the Super Bowl, or like last year, win almost all, and then in the playoffs, you're playing good teams, and we know football. There's no guarantee. You can't say ahead of time, who's going to win just because Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. I wonder if we've seen the best of Aaron Rodgers yet. I mean, he was so phenomenal last year. It'll just be fun to watch. They've still got a great many great choices to receive those passes from Aaron Rodgers, and they're trying. The running game. We don't know what. That's a little strange right now, but
it's almost non-existent. Cedric Benson is an improvement.
Yeah,
but he
sure
fumbles
is.
a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. You've been here long enough that you're an honorary.
You never
40
apologize.
years
to
I've
Bears
been in
fans.
this state.
You're an honorary.
I love the
cheesehead.
Packers.
You're an honorary cheesehead, and if you get into politics, you'll become a Packer fan, but you're still a little bit of a Bears fan. You think they'll beat the Bears at Lambeau Field?
I hope they do. let me dispel first any misperceptions that I'm a Bears fan.
It's not
I'm
gonna
a
work.
Packer fan first, and then I cheer for the Bears.
That's got to be some weird disease.
These
Must be
first,
safe on our streets.
I grew up in the Gale Sayers era, so Dick Butkus, Mike Ditka. Those are
That is not going to endear you to people watching.
I know.
You mentioned Gale Sayers and Dick
Those are the
Butkus.
ones I grew up with. So if they pardon me, but I've grown to love Brett Favre. I've grown to love Aaron Rodgers, although I think Rodgers is still prone to. Well, he scampers. He
can be a good thing.
And he's going to have to if he's going to avoid concussions. And the line, I think, is going to be suspect this year. We don't have a running game. Some people would say the Packers are very experienced, and that's one reason why they can run the table. I say maybe in some spots they're a little old, and maybe this is their last year at being able to go at it with the full team intact. The competition in the league is going to be between the Bears, the Packers, and Detroit. And something tells me that if we don't come out of this with 2 wins out the blocks, we'll be perceived as vulnerable. And those other strong teams that we're going to face, they're going to give it all they've got just to dismantle the Packers.
Should we have tried to get Russell Wilson?
Yes, but just like Wisconsin was laughed at for bringing Russell Wilson in, I think Seattle got laughed at for bringing him on until they actually had him on the field and he demonstrated how really good he is. And so that was a missed opportunity for us. We don't have really a backup quarterback, and preseason showed that. That's another weakness.
It's scary, and it's a thing that sports writers and sports radio talks about, and it's some problem that you may never need.
And we hope we don't.
Last year we didn't.
You're right.
We didn't. I understand that. Whether this backup quarterback could do it or not, and he might have. We've seen backup quarterbacks come in and have brilliant games, and you don't know why because.
But this guy isn't in that caliber.
2 games this season, though. Let's say a backup quarterback has to play for 2 games this season. Those could be 2 critical games that are the difference between a wild card spot and being the division leader. So, having the assurance of having.
If this guy isn't it, there's still some we could find.
Well,
we're going to have to spend some money.
Remember how good Favre looked when he came in for Mikowski.
But he's a future Hall of Famer. Our backup guy, I don't think, was all that good in Pee-wee football.
There were moments I thought I would be as good as that guy.
Are we still really high on Thompson McCarthy?
Yes.
Well, it's hard to. I was down on him a couple of years ago.
I was too.
Because I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was ready. But obviously, success speaks for itself.
Right.
I question some of the draft picks sometimes, but he finds a way to put winning teams on the field.
Let's see what happens mid-season, because we may all be cussing him out, depending on
how long do you think his leash is. I mean, if this team isn't quite as good as the past 2 years, is it like suddenly he's a bum?
No, his leash is pretty long. If the Packers don't do very well, I think the chopping block, the head that's on the chopping block is the head coach, not the general manager.
They'll have 2 years of forgiveness, and then heads will roll.
All right, back to politics for just a minute. Well, it may have taken Bill Clinton to make the most effective case for Barack Obama, but the Democrats leave Charlotte convinced that they've laid out plenty of the president's accomplishments over these past 4 years. Some Republicans, of course, keep arguing just the opposite. They say Obama hasn't done much at all. They even sound disappointed. Rick Horowitz isn't buying it. Rick.
Here's what you did. You made me a promise. Here's what I did. I made sure you couldn't keep your promise. Then I got mad at you for not keeping it. Let's say you promised me you'd take me somewhere important. You'd drive me to the grocery store for my shopping, you said, or to the doctor's office for my checkup. You'll come pick me up and you'll drive me there. Don't worry, you said. I'll get you there. I promise. And I believed you. I counted on you. I also put sugar in your gas tank and nails in your driveway. Then I called you up and complained. How come you're not here? I asked you. You promised you'd be here. You started to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. You promised. So you made me another promise. You promised you'd try again the very next day. This time you said, I'll get you there for sure. And I believed you. I put my faith in you. I also slashed your tires and padlocked your front door. Then I called you up and yelled at you. Where are you? I screamed. You promised you'd help me. You started to explain all over again, but I wasn't interested in hearing your excuses. I was only interested in you keeping your promises. So you promised all over again. You weren't a quitter, you said. You still wanted us to do things together, accomplish things. You'd get me to that grocery store, you said, to that doctor's office. You'd be over first thing in the morning, you said. I trusted you. I depended on you. I also got them to tear up all the streets near my house, and I chained myself to my refrigerator just to make sure. Then I told everyone in the whole country how disappointed I was in you, how terrible it was that you'd let me down. Does it make any sense? Of course not. But that's okay. It's just a story. Something like that could never happen in the real world.
Well, thanks, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.